The transport ship glided into Nexus Station like a silver blade cutting through the darkness of space. Inside the docking bay, Kang Daeho stood with his hands clasped behind his back, watching the Velkari vessel settle onto the platform. He'd been waiting for 20 minutes, which Ambassador Yoon Hana said was exactly the right amount of time. Not too early to seem desperate. Not too late to seem disrespectful. Remember, Yoon said beside him, adjusting her diplomatic sash. The Velkari think we're primitive. Don't prove them right. Daeho smiled slightly. When have I ever? There's always a first time. Yoon glanced at her datapad. Princess Ithara Vel Moran. 127 years old. But that's young for them. Top of her class in philosophy and combat. Speaks 9 languages. Never lost a debate. Never bowed to anyone. Sounds delightful, Daeho said. The ship's doors hissed open. Steam rolled out across the platform, and through it walked the Velkari delegation. They were tall. All of them. Nearly 7 feet. Their skin had a crystalline quality that caught the light and scattered it in strange patterns. But it was the princess who commanded attention. Ithra Vel Morun walked like she owned the station. Her silver skin seemed to glow with its own light, and her eyes shifted from gold to deep purple as she scanned the welcoming committee. She wore armor that looked ceremonial, but Daeho suspected was fully functional. Behind her walked her younger brother, Prince Torath, and an elderly advisor whose name Daeho had memorized as Soreth. The princess stopped 3 meters away. She looked down at the humans with those color-shifting eyes, and Daeho saw the exact moment she decided they weren't worth her full attention. I am Princess Ithara Velmorun, she said in perfect standard galactic. Her voice had a musical quality that didn't match the coldness in her expression. I represent the Velkari Empire in these negotiations. I expect proper protocols to be observed. Ambassador Yoon stepped forward and bowed, just slightly. Your Highness, welcome to Nexus Station. I am Ambassador Yoon Hana of Earth. This is my colleague, Kang Daeho. Ithara's eyes flicked to Daeho for half a second. An attaché? How underwhelming. She switched her attention back to Yoon. I assume you have prepared appropriate quarters? The Velkari require specific environmental conditions. Everything has been arranged, Yoon assured her. It had better be. Ithara gestured to her delegation. Come. I wish to rest before the opening ceremony. They swept past the human delegation without another word. Daeho watched them go, noting how the princess held herself. How her brother seemed more curious about the humans than she was. How the advisor Soreth glanced back once with something that might have been sympathy in his ancient eyes. Well, Yoon said quietly, this will be fun. The opening ceremony took place in the Grand Chamber, a massive room with a dome that showed the stars outside. Representatives from 40 species filled the space, all dressed in their finest. The humans wore simple but elegant uniforms. The Velkari, by contrast, looked like they'd come to a coronation. Daeho stood with the human delegation near the middle of the room. He could see Princess Ithara clearly. She stood with perfect posture, her chin raised, her eyes now a sharp amber color. When the Council Primus began to speak, welcoming everyone to the negotiations, Ithara's expression remained coolly indifferent. As is tradition, the Primus said, his voice booming through the chamber. We honor the Council and the peace it represents. All delegates will show their respect. Around the room, representatives bowed or performed their species-equivalent gesture. The humans bowed. The insectoid Threx clicked their mandibles and lowered their heads. The floating Yanari dimmed their lights. Ithara remained standing tall. A murmur rippled through the chamber. The princess raised her voice, speaking in Velkari first, then switching to Standard Galactic. I am Ithara Vel Morun, Crown Princess of the Velkari Empire. Our people bow to none. This is our ancient right, recognized by council law. She turned slowly, her gaze sweeping across the room, until it landed on the human delegation. Her eyes shifted to a darker red. especially not to lesser species who barely understand what it means to walk among the stars. I would sooner die than kneel before these humans. She said the word like it tasted bad. Most particularly, I would never bow to that one. She pointed directly at Deho. Deho felt 40 sets of eyes turn to him. Ambassador Yoon tensed beside him. The smart thing would be to stay quiet, to let this moment pass. But Deho had never been good at taking the smart path when there was a more interesting one available. He stepped forward and spoke in flawless Velkari. The language rolled off his tongue like music, each word precisely pronounced. Pride is heaviest before the fall. Your Highness, I wonder what it will take to make yours feel light. The chamber went completely silent. Ithara's eyes widened, shifting rapidly from red to orange to a shocked gold. Around her, the Velkari delegation stared. Prince Torith's mouth actually fell open slightly. You speak, Ithara started, then caught herself. Her eyes darkened to a furious crimson. You dare address me in my own language? You dare mock me? Deho switched back to standard Galactic, keeping his voice calm and respectful. I mock no one, Your Highness. I simply observe that pride is a heavy burden. I carry my own, as all humans do. But I've learned that sometimes the strongest thing we can do is set that burden down. Ithara stepped forward, closing the distance between them. Even with the 3 feet of height difference, Deho didn't step back. He met her furious gaze with calm interest. I make an oath, Ithara said, her voice ringing through the chamber. I swear by the crystal throne of my ancestors, by the eternal stars of Velkar, by my blood and my honor, I will never kneel before any human. Never bow, never show submission, and especially, she leaned down, bringing her face closer to Deho's. Never to you, Kang Deho. Deho smiled slightly. I never asked you to, Your Highness. For a moment, something flickered in Ithara's eyes. Confusion. Maybe. Or curiosity. Then, it was gone. Replaced by cold contempt. She straightened and turned away. This ceremony bores me. Come. We have much to prepare. The Velkari delegation left. The chamber erupted in whispered conversations. Deho felt Ambassador Yoon's hand grip his arm, her nails digging in slightly. My office, she hissed. Now. 10 minutes later, Deho sat across from Yoon in her small office overlooking the station's main concourse. She paced back and forth, her face cycling through several emotions before settling on exasperated acceptance. You speak Velkari, she said flatly. 5 years of study, Deho confirmed. I thought it might be useful. You antagonized a crown princess on the first day. She antagonized us first. I just responded in a language she'd understand. Yoon stopped pacing and looked at him. Did you see her face when you spoke? She was genuinely shocked. The Velkari think humans are barely capable of learning our own languages, let alone theirs. I know. Deho stood and walked to the window. Below, he could see the Velkari delegation moving through the concourse. Even from this distance, Ithara stood out. She's interesting. She swore a public oath to never kneel before you. Yes. Deho, Yoon said carefully. He turned to look at his superior and friend. I'm not planning anything, but I am curious about what it would take to make someone that proud see past their own certainty. Don't you wonder what she's protecting herself from? I wonder if you're going to start a diplomatic incident. Too late for that. Deho grinned. But I promise. I'll be respectful. Mostly. Yoon sighed. The negotiations start tomorrow. Try not to make her angrier. I'll do my best. Later that night, Deho sat in his quarters reviewing files on Velkari culture. His door chimed. When he opened it, he found Prince Torith standing there. Without guards or advisor. The young prince looked nervous but determined. I wanted to thank you, Torith said in heavily accented Standard Galactic. Thank me? Deho stepped aside to let him in. My sister. She carries much weight. The weight of our entire people's future. Sometimes she forgets. Torith struggled for words. She forgets that being strong doesn't mean being hard. I understand, Deho said. And he did. He'd seen it before, in soldiers who convinced themselves that showing emotion meant showing weakness. You spoke our language beautifully, Torith continued. It made her see you as real. As a person, not just a human. That scared her, I think. Why would that scare her? Torith smiled sadly. Because if you are a person, then she must treat you as an equal. And equals can hurt us. He moved toward the door. Tomorrow will be difficult. My sister is brilliant and ruthless in debate. But now, I think, he paused. I think perhaps she has met someone interesting too. After Torith left, Deho returned to his window. Somewhere on this station, a princess who swore she'd never kneel was probably planning how to destroy him in tomorrow's negotiations. He found himself looking forward to it. The negotiation chamber was designed to be neutral. Plain white walls, a circular table, comfortable chairs that adjusted to any species' needs. Deho arrived early and chose a seat with a view of the entrance. He wanted to see Ithara's face when she walked in. Ambassador Yoon sat beside him, reviewing her notes. Around the table, representatives from 6 other species settled into their places. Everyone wanted a piece of the disputed mining sector. It was rich in rare minerals and sat at a strategic location between 3 major trade routes. Ithara entered exactly on time. She wore robes today instead of armor, deep purple fabric that shimmered when she moved. Her eyes were a calm blue, which Deho had learned meant she was focused and confident. Behind her came Sorith and 2 other advisors. She sat directly across from Deho. Not across from Ambassador Yoon, who technically led the human delegation. Across from him. Her message was clear. The session began with opening statements. The Threx representative clicked and whistled about historical claims. The Yanari floated and hummed about economic partnerships. Ambassador Yoon spoke about humanity's colonies in nearby systems and the need for stability. Then it was Ithara's turn. She stood, and the room seemed to shrink around her. When she spoke, her voice carried the weight of centuries of imperial authority. She cited treaties that were older than human space travel. She referenced council laws that Deho barely knew existed. She built an argument so airtight, so perfectly constructed, that by the time she finished, 2 of the other species had already withdrawn their claims. She sat down and looked directly at Deho. Her eyes had shifted to a satisfied gold. The challenge in them was obvious. Ambassador Yoon leaned over. We're in trouble, she whispered. Deho stood. He didn't bring notes or data pads. He simply walked to the center of the room, hands in his pockets, looking more like a teacher than a diplomat. The princess speaks well, he said. Her knowledge of law is impressive. But I'd like to tell you all a story, if you'll allow me. Ithara's eyes narrowed. This wasn't how negotiations worked. You didn't tell stories. You presented facts and arguments. 3,000 years ago, Deho continued, there was a Korean kingdom called Goguryeo. It was powerful and proud. It had laws that had stood for centuries. It had traditions that seemed unbreakable. And then something changed. The world changed around them. Other kingdoms grew stronger. New technologies emerged. Old certainties became obsolete. He walked slowly around the table as he spoke. Goguryeo had a choice. They could cling to their old laws, their old ways, insisting that tradition mattered more than reality. Or they could adapt. They could take what was good from their past and blend it with what was necessary for their future. A charming fairy tale, Ithara said coldly. But this is not a classroom. We are discussing territorial rights, not ancient human kingdoms that no one has heard of. Deho smiled. You're right, Your Highness. So let me quote someone you have heard of. Valkyrie, philosopher, Morthean, from his third meditation. The tree that cannot bend in the wind will break, But the tree that bends will grow stronger, its roots deeper, its branches reaching toward new skies. Ithara's eyes flashed orange. Shock. Deho had just quoted one of the most sacred Velkari texts. Morthian also wrote. Deho continued in Velkari. The warrior who fights only with strength will defeat many. The warrior who fights with wisdom will never need to fight at all. He switched back to Standard Galactic. The mining sector we're discussing isn't just about minerals or trade routes. It's about the future, about whether we remain separated by old grudges and pride, or whether we find a way to work together. Humanity doesn't claim this sector because we're stronger or because we arrived first. We claim it because our colonies depend on it, and because we believe that cooperation benefits everyone more than competition. Deho looked around the table. Princess Ithara is right about the laws. The Velkari have legal grounds for their claim, but laws were written by people trying to solve problems of their time. Our problem, right now, is figuring out how all of us can thrive. That requires more than legal precedent. It requires wisdom. He sat down. The room was quiet. Ambassador Yoon was staring at him like she'd never seen him before. The other delegates looked thoughtful. And Ithara. Ithara's eyes had cycled through 5 different colors in as many seconds. She stood abruptly. We recess until tomorrow, she announced, and walked out of the room without waiting for formal dismissal. That evening, there was a cultural exchange event in one of the station's recreational areas. It was supposed to ease tensions between delegations. Deho almost didn't attend, but Yoon insisted. You rattled her, Yoon said as they walked to the event. I've never seen a Velkari royal leave a negotiation early. They consider it a sign of weakness. Maybe she needed time to think. Or she's planning how to destroy you tomorrow. Yoon smiled slightly. That was impressive. By the way, quoting Morthian, where did you learn that? I read a lot. The recreational area had been transformed. Different species had set up displays of their cultures. Music filled the air, mixing and clashing in interesting ways. Deho found himself drawn to a demonstration area where some human security personnel were showing basic martial arts to curious aliens. He watched for a while, then accepted an invitation to demonstrate some techniques himself. He moved through a simple form, letting his body remember the patterns he'd learned as a young soldier. Block, strike, turn, center yourself, each movement flowing into the next. When he finished and turned around, Ithara was standing at the edge of the crowd. Her eyes were a purple he hadn't seen before, something between curiosity and confusion. She stepped forward as the crowd dispersed. That was Velkari combat technique, she said. How do you know our fighting style? This is human martial arts, Deho corrected gently. From Korea, specifically. Impossible. The movements are nearly identical to our third form warrior practices. The centering, the flow, Deho considered her. She looked genuinely puzzled. Maybe, he said carefully. Different people can arrive at similar wisdom through different paths. Maybe the human body and the Velkari body, when pushed to their limits, find similar solutions to similar problems. Ithara was quiet for a long moment. Around them, the cultural exchange continued, but they stood in a small bubble of silence. You studied our language, she said finally. Our philosophy. Our combat forms. Why? Because I wanted to understand you. Your people, I mean. The Velkari. To find weaknesses. To find common ground. Deho met her gaze. You think humans are primitive. You're not wrong that we're young compared to your empire. But we've learned a lot in our short time among the stars. One thing we've learned is that every species has something valuable to teach. We just have to be willing to listen. Ithara's eyes shifted to amber. You are very strange, Kang Deho. I've been told that before. In the negotiation today, you made me look foolish. That wasn't my intention. No? Her eyes darkened. You used our own philosophy against us. You showed the other delegates that my legal arguments, while correct, were narrow and selfish. I showed them that there's more than one way to look at a problem, Deho said. You're not foolish, Your Highness. You're brilliant. But brilliance and wisdom aren't always the same thing. For a moment, he thought she might storm off again. Instead, she did something unexpected. She laughed. It was a short, sharp sound, like she'd surprised herself. My advisor Soreth told me something today, she said. He said that you see me. Really see me. Not just my title or my position. He said that was dangerous. Is it? Yes. Ithara looked away, toward where her brother Torath was talking animatedly with some human officers. It's much easier to dislike people you don't see as real. You're making that difficult. Sorry. No, you're not. She looked back at him, and her eyes were now a soft green he didn't recognize. Tomorrow, I'm going to argue that the mining sector should be divided equally between all interested parties, with the Velkari and humans jointly administering it. Deho blinked. That's not what I expected you to say. It's the wise solution. The one that Morthean would suggest. She smiled slightly, and it transformed her face. For the first time, she didn't look like an imperial princess. She looked like someone young and a little uncertain. You were right. Laws serve people. They shouldn't trap us. The hardliners in your government won't like that. No, but my father will understand. And Soreth agrees with me. She tilted her head. You keep surprising me. Human. I don't like being surprised. Should I apologize? Don't you dare. She turned to leave, then paused. Deho. It was the first time she'd used his name without his family name. Just his given name. Said in a way that made it sound like a Velkari word. Yes? Thank you. For seeing me. She walked away before he could respond. Ambassador Yoon appeared at his elbow. What just happened? Deho watched Ithara rejoin her delegation. I think, he said slowly. Something changed. Should I be worried? Probably. He smiled. But, in a good way. The next day's negotiations went smoothly. Ithara presented her new proposal with the same brilliant certainty she'd shown before. But now that certainty served cooperation instead of competition. Other delegates were surprised but receptive. By the end of the session, a framework had been established. But as everyone filed out, one of Soreth's junior advisors approached Deho quietly. There's something you should know, the young Velkari said. Evidence has emerged. The Solteri Consortium has been manipulating these negotiations. They profit from conflict. They may try to sabotage any agreement. Deho's blood ran cold. Does the princess know? Not yet. But she will soon. The advisor looked worried. If the consortium acts against her, against both our delegations, it could be dangerous. As if summoning trouble by speaking of it, alarms began blaring through the station. The alarms screamed through Nexus Station like wounded animals. Deho ran toward the negotiation chamber, where he'd last seen Ithara. People pushed past him in both directions, some fleeing, some heading toward the emergency. His earpiece crackled with overlapping voices, reporting the situation. Explosive device in Sector 7. Drone attack on the Velkari delegation quarters. Security. Responding. Deho's military training kicked in. He'd been a soldier before he became a diplomat, and his body remembered how to move through chaos. He reached the chamber and found it sealed. The security panel showed red. Lockdown protocol. Override, he said into his comm. Ambassador's authority. Open negotiation. Chamber 7. Sir, there's a security situation. I know. Open it. The doors hissed open. Inside, Ithara stood in the center of the room with her brother Toreth behind her. 3 combat drones circled them like mechanical sharks. The drones were sleek and deadly, equipped with plasma weapons that hummed with barely contained energy. Ithara had somehow acquired a long blade that glowed with the same crystalline quality as her skin. She moved with perfect precision, deflecting plasma bolts that should have killed her. But she was tiring. Daeho could see it in the way her shoulders had begun to drop slightly, in the darker red of her eyes. He didn't think. He just acted. Daeho dove through the doorway and rolled, coming up beside an overturned table. One of the drones turned toward this new target. Plasma fire scorched the floor where he'd been a second before. He grabbed a broken chair leg and threw it. Not at the drone, but at the room's lighting panel. The lights exploded. Emergency strips activated, bathing everything in dim red light. The drone's targeting systems struggled to adjust. In that moment of confusion, Ithara struck. Her blade sang through the air and one drone fell, sparking and dying. "Get behind me," Ithara shouted at Daeho. "No," he shouted back. "Work together." Another drone dove at him. Daeho remembered his training, remembered the forms he'd shown just yesterday. He moved like water, letting the plasma bolt pass where he'd been. The drone's momentum carried it past him and directly into Ithara's range. She destroyed it with surgical precision. The third drone had learned. It kept its distance, circling, looking for an opening. Toreth pressed against the wall, his eyes wide with fear but also trust. He believed his sister would save him. "On 3, Daeho said quietly, moving closer to Ithara. "You go left, I'll go right. It can't track both." "You're not a soldier," Ithara hissed. Her skin was glowing brighter now, a stress response. "I was. A long time ago." He met her eyes. "Do you trust me?" She should have said no. They barely knew each other. But something passed between them in that moment, some understanding that went deeper than logic. 3, she said. They moved as one. The drone fired at Ithara, tracking her movement. Daeho came in from the side, grabbing a metal rod from the debris. He swung it like a staff and connected with the drone's sensor array. It spun wildly, damaged but still functional. Ithara didn't waste the opening. Her blade found the drone's power core, and it died in a shower of sparks. Silence, broken only by their heavy breathing. "The doors," Toreth gasped. "They sealed us in." Daeho checked his comm. "Dead. Jammed." He moved to the door controls, but they were fried. "Security will get here eventually," he said. "But it might take a while." "This was an assassination attempt," Ithara said flatly. She was examining the drone's remains. "These are expensive. Military grade. Someone with significant resources wanted us dead. Both of us," Daeho noted. "The attack targeted you, but the lockdown trapped me here too." Ithara looked at him, her eyes cycling through colors too fast to identify. "Why did you come? You could have run. Won. You were in danger. I'm not your responsibility." "No," Daeho agreed. He slid down against the wall, suddenly exhausted. "But you're a person. And I don't leave people to die if I can help it." Toreth joined them on the floor, his legs shaky. "Those drones should have killed us. Sister, you were amazing. And you," he looked at Daeho, "you fought like a Velkari warrior." "I fought like I was taught," Daeho said. "Sometimes that's enough." They sat in silence for a moment. Then Ithara laughed, not the sharp sound from before, but something genuine and a little wild. "I didn't save you," Daeho said. "We saved each other." Ithara's laughter faded. She was looking at him with an intensity that made him uncomfortable. "You're not what I expected," she said, quietly. "What did you expect?" "I don't know. Arrogance, maybe. Humans are so proud of yourselves. So quick to claim superiority, despite being the youngest species in the council. Some of us are like that," Daeho admitted. "But most of us are just trying to find our place, like anyone else. You're not afraid of me. Should I be? Most people are. I'm a crown princess. I command armies. My word can end lives." Daeho considered this. "I see all that. But I also see someone who carries a weight that would crush most people. Someone who's expected to be perfect all the time. That seems exhausting." Aho Kanajam. Deho considered all the time. Ithara's eyes went very still. The color drained to almost white. You don't know what you're talking about, don't I? He kept his voice gentle. I had a brother once. Older than me. Everyone expected him to be perfect too. He was going to lead our family. Represent humanity in the military. Be everything our parents dreamed. The pressure broke him. He died doing something reckless, trying to prove he was as strong as everyone thought he should be. The words hung in the air. Deho rarely talked about his brother. The wound was old, but it never quite healed. I'm sorry, Ithara said. Her voice had changed. Softer. That must have been terrible. It was. But it taught me something. Being strong doesn't mean never showing weakness. It means knowing when to let others help carry the weight. Toreth was watching his sister carefully. She never lets anyone help, he said. Not really. She thinks she has to do everything herself. Torath. Ithara's voice held a warning. It's true. Father's sick. The Empire is watching you. Everyone expects you to be perfect like grandmother was. Like all the princesses before you. Torath looked at Deho. She hasn't slept properly in weeks. She works until she collapses, and then works more. That's enough. Ithara snapped. Her eyes had gone dark red. Anger and embarrassment mixed together. Why? Deho asked. Not challenging. Just curious. Why do you think you have to be perfect? Because if I'm not, my people will suffer. The Velkari have ruled the quadrant for 6,000 years. We are philosophers and warriors. We are the standard by which other species measure themselves. If I fail... She stopped, her jaw tight. I cannot fail. And what counts as failure? Deho pressed gently. Making a compromise? Showing uncertainty? Being human? I'm not human. You know what I mean. Being a person. With doubts, and fears, and moments of weakness. Ithara stood abruptly and walked away. Her back was rigid, her shoulders tight. You don't understand. You can't. Your people are young. You haven't had thousands of years of history pressing down on every decision. You don't carry the weight of all those who came before you. You're right, Deho said. Humanity is young. We've only been in space for 200 years. But you know what that means? It means we remember what it's like to be uncertain, to make mistakes, to fail, and have to try again. He stood and approached her carefully. That's not a weakness. It's made us adaptable, resilient, weak, Ithara said. But there was no conviction in her voice. If we're weak, how did I survive 3 combat drones with you? How did humanity earn a seat on the council despite every older species thinking we were too primitive? Ithara turned. Tears were running down her face, glowing slightly as they caught the light. Deho realized he'd never seen a Velkari cry before. I'm scared, she whispered. All the time. Scared I'll fail my people. Scared I'm not as good as they think. Scared that I'm just pretending to be strong. Everyone feels that way sometimes, Deho said. Even the strongest people. Especially them. Not my grandmother. She never doubted. Maybe she just never showed it. He took a chance and stepped closer. Ithara, you don't have to carry this alone. That's what allies are for. That's what friends are for. Ithara Sosa's former friend C, we're not friends, she said automatically. Aren't we? You changed your proposal because of our conversation. You listened to me. Really listened. That takes courage. Or weakness. No. Pride would be weakness. Refusing to change even when change is right. You showed wisdom. That's different. Ithara wiped her face with the back of her hand. If my council sees me like this, crying in front of a human, they won't. This stays between us. All of it. Deho looked at Toreth, who nodded agreement. But Ithara, please, you don't have to be perfect. You just have to be good enough. And from what I've seen, you're more than good enough. She looked at him for a long time. Her eyes cycled through a dozen colors before settling on a soft gold. Why do you care? Really? What do you gain from this? Chain. Nothing. Everything. He smiled slightly. I told you. I see you. The person behind the crown. And that person is worth knowing. Worth helping. I don't need help. Everyone needs help sometimes. Before Ithara could respond, the doors finally hissed open. Security flooded in, weapons ready. Ambassador Yoon was right behind them, her face pale with worry. Are you hurt? Yoon demanded, checking Daeho for injuries. We're fine, Daeho assured her. The princess and I dealt with the drones. The princess and... You? One of the security officers looked between them. Clearly confused, Ithara stepped forward, her royal bearing returning like a cloak settling onto her shoulders. Kang Daeho fought with honor and skill. He saved my life, and my brother's life. Any who question this are questioning my testimony. The security officers bowed. Of course, Your Highness. As they were escorted to safety, as medics checked them over and investigators began examining the destroyed drones, Daeho caught Ithara's eye. She gave him the smallest nod. An acknowledgement, a thank you, a promise that something had changed between them. Later, after the statements and the medical checks, Daeho returned to his quarters. He was almost asleep when his door chimed. Ithara stood there, alone, without guards or advisors. Tomorrow, she said without preamble. They'll want to know who sent the drones. The investigation will take time. Meanwhile, we're supposed to continue negotiations like nothing happened. Can you do that? I don't know. She looked vulnerable in a way he'd never seen. Everything you said, in that room, about carrying weight alone, about being scared. I need you to know that no one has ever seen that before. Not Toreth. Not Soreth. No one. Your secret is safe. It's not that. She stepped closer. It's that you were right, and I don't know what to do with that. You don't have to do anything. Just let yourself be a person sometimes. Not just a princess. She reached out and touched his hand briefly. Her skin was warm, almost hot. Thank you, she said, for seeing me, for helping me, for being a friend. She smiled, and it reached her eyes. Yes, a friend. Though I never thought I'd say that about a human. After she left, Daeho sat by his window and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, someone had tried to kill them both. The consortium, probably. But right now, that seemed less important than what had happened in that sealed room. Ithra had let him see past her armor. And somehow, that felt like the most dangerous and wonderful thing that had ever happened to him. The investigation into the drone attack revealed what everyone suspected. The Sultari Consortium had paid for the assassination. They were a massive corporate entity that profited from conflict, selling weapons and security services across the galaxy. Peace between the Velkari and humans would cost them billions, but proving it was different from knowing it. The consortium had covered its tracks well. The drones were generic models, purchased through 17 different shell companies. The money trail vanished into encrypted accounts. Without solid proof, the council couldn't act. Negotiations continued, but everyone was tense. Security tripled around both delegations. Ithara and Daeho couldn't meet privately without 6 guards watching. Still, something had changed. When they spoke in the negotiation sessions, there was a rhythm to it now. A back and forth that felt almost like a dance. 1 week after the attack, everything changed again. The message came during a morning session. Ithara's private comm chimed. She glanced at it, and her face went completely still. Her eyes shifted to a color Daeho had never seen before. Almost black. I must leave, she announced, standing abruptly. Immediately. Ambassador Yoon looked concerned. Your Highness, we're in the middle of, my father is dying. Ithara's voice was flat, emotionless. The control it took to sound that calm was visible in the rigid way she held herself. The Emperor. He's been ill for months. But now, I must return home. The room erupted in murmurs. Daeho stood. How long will you be gone? I don't know. Days. Weeks. She looked around the table. If I leave, Council law states that the Valkyrie delegation must withdraw from these negotiations. Everything we've worked for will be forfeit. That's not right, Torith protested. Sister, you should be with Father. The Empire needs these agreements more than Father needs me at his deathbed. Ithara's eyes were still that terrible black color. He would understand. He would expect me to put duty first. Daeho saw it then. The exact moment she decided to sacrifice herself for her people. To stay and let her father die alone. Because an ancient law said negotiations required the crown representative to remain. No, Daeho said. Everyone turned to look at him. No, he repeated, looking at Ambassador Yoon. Humanity withdraws its claims to the disputed sector. Entirely. The Valkyrie can have everything. The room exploded. The other delegates shouted protests. Ambassador Yoon grabbed his arm. Daeho! What are you doing? The right thing. He kept his eyes on Ithara. Your Highness, go to your father. Be with him. Your people need you. Yes, but you need to say goodbye. That's more important than minerals or trade routes. You can't do this, Ithara said. Her voice was shaking now, the control cracking. You're giving us everything we wanted. Your people will call you a traitor. Let them. Daeho stepped closer to her. Ithara, listen to me. I saw you with your brother. I know how much family means to you. Don't let politics take this from you. Don't let some rule written by people who are long dead steal your chance to be with your father when he needs you most. Tears were running down her face again. This is pity. You pity me. No. This is friendship. This is understanding. That some things matter more than winning. Ambassador Yoon was having a heated, whispered conversation with her advisors. Finally, she sighed. The human delegation supports Attaché Kang's proposal. The sector is yours, Your Highness. Go. Be with your father. Ithara looked between them, her eyes cycling rapidly through colors. Then her expression hardened. No. What? Daeho was genuinely surprised. I refuse. Ithara's voice was cold now, distant. This is charity. You're treating me like a child who needs protection, like I'm weak and helpless and need humans to save me. She stepped back. Keep your sector. I'm staying. These negotiations will continue. She turned and walked toward the door. Torith ran after her. Sister, please. No, Toreth. Our duty is here. After they left, the room sat in stunned silence. Ambassador Yoon looked at Daeho. Well, that went badly. She's pushing me away, Daeho said quietly. She's scared. Of what? Of needing someone. Of being seen as weak. He stood. Excuse me. Daeho found Ithara in one of the station's observation decks. She stood alone, looking out at the stars. Her shoulders were shaking. She was crying but trying to hide it. Go away, she said without turning around. No, I don't want your pity, human. Good, because I'm not offering any. Daeho came to stand beside her. I'm offering friendship. There's a difference. Is there? She finally looked at him. Her eyes were red and swollen. You think I'm pathetic? A princess who can't even be with her dying father because she's too proud to accept help. That's not what I think at all. Then what? She turned on him, anger and pain mixing in her voice. What do you want from me, Daeho? Why do you keep pushing? Why do you care? Because you matter. He said it simply. Not as a princess. Not as a negotiation opponent. As a person. You matter. I barely know you. And yet we've fought side by side. Saved each other's lives. Talked about things you've never told anyone else. He took a breath. Ithara, I'm not trying to save you. Toxiting, leave that. That's one. On conceding this one. I'm trying to be your friend. Friends help each other. That's what they do. I don't need help. But her voice broke on the last word. Everyone needs help sometimes, even crown princesses. He moved closer. Your father is dying. That's real. That's important. More important than any negotiation. If you stay here, out of pride, if you let duty steal this moment from you, you'll regret it forever. I know. I've lived with that kind of regret. I'm self things for watching, till I'm some unrated. You lift a daughter, on of the dawn. Your brother. Yes, I wasn't there when he died. I was on a mission. Doing my duty. I told myself it was important. That he would understand. Deho's voice went quiet. He died alone, and I never got to say goodbye. Never got to tell him I loved him. That I was proud of him. That I wished he'd let me help carry his burden. Ithara's anger crumbled. I'm so sorry. Don't be sorry. Just don't make the same mistake I did. He reached out and took her hand. Her skin was hot against his. Go to your father. The negotiations will wait. The empire will survive. But you only get one chance to say goodbye. If I accept your offer, people will think I'm weak. That the Velkari needed human charity. Let them think what they want. You'll know the truth, which is that you're strong enough to accept help. That you understand what really matters. He squeezed her hand gently. That you're wise enough to put people before pride. One. Then, Ia. One. She was quiet for a long time. Outside the window, stars drifted past. Finally, she spoke. When I first saw you, I thought you were nothing. A primitive human who barely understood the galaxy. I swore I'd never kneel before you. Never show you respect. I remember. I was wrong. She looked at him. You've shown me more respect than anyone in my life. You see past my crown. Past my title. You see me. The scared, tired person. Underneath. That person is pretty remarkable, Deho said softly. I don't know how to do this. How to accept help. How to let someone in. You're already doing it. Right now. Ithara pulled her hand away. If I go to my father, if I accept your offer, it changes things between us. Between our people. Yes, I won't owe you. This won't be a debt. I'm not asking for one. Then what are you asking for? Deho smiled. Maybe just a chance to keep being your friend. Is that too much? For the first time in hours, Ithara smiled. It was small and sad, but genuine. You are the strangest human I've ever met. I'll take that as a compliment. She took a deep breath. I'll go. I'll be with my father. But, Deho, yes? Thank you for seeing me. For not letting me make a terrible mistake. For, she struggled with the words. For caring when you didn't have to. That's what friends do. After Ithara left for her homeworld, taking Torith with her, the station felt emptier. Deho threw himself into work, helping Ambassador Yoon handle the political fallout from his decision. Some human colonies were angry about giving up the sector. Others understood. It would take time to smooth everything over. 3 days later, Prince Torith returned alone. He found Deho in the diplomatic offices. My father died this morning, Torith said quietly. Peacefully. With my sister beside him. She held his hand. They talked for hours. He told her he was proud of her. That she would be a great empress. I'm sorry for your loss, Deho said. Don't be. You gave her a gift. Time. The chance to say goodbye. Toreth's eyes were bright with unshed tears. She wanted you to know. Father's last command, his final act as emperor, was to abdicate in her favor. He named her Empress immediately. And her first act as Empress was to declare that the mining sector will be shared. Joint administration between Velkari and humans. Equal partners. Deho was stunned. She didn't have to do that. She wanted to, she said. Toreth smiled slightly. She said that wisdom means knowing when to share the burden. She learned that from a friend. When will she return? 3 weeks. There's a coronation, formal ceremonies, the transfer of power. Toreth hesitated. She asked me to give you something. He handed Deho a small crystal. It glowed with internal light, shifting through colors. It's a personal token. Only given to those the royal family trusts, absolutely. It means you're under her protection. More than that, it means you're. He searched for the right word. Important to her. Deho held the crystal carefully. It was warm, like it held a piece of Ithara's heat. Tell her I'm honored. Tell her yourself when she returns. Toreth gripped Deho's shoulder. You changed her life. Maybe saved it. We won't forget that. After Toreth left, Deho stood alone, holding the crystal. Through the window, he could see ships coming and going. The galaxy kept turning. Life continued. But something had fundamentally changed. A proud princess who swore she'd never kneel had learned that accepting help wasn't weakness. And a quiet human diplomat had learned that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is offer friendship to someone who's forgotten they need it. 3 weeks felt like a very long time to wait. The 3 weeks passed slowly. Deho watched news reports from the Velkari homeworld showing the coronation ceremonies. Ithara looked different as Empress. Still proud, still powerful, but something in her eyes had changed. She looked more certain, more at peace. The negotiations continued without her, guided by Soreth and the framework she'd established. The shared administration of the mining sector was approved by the Council. Other species began proposing similar cooperative arrangements. The Velkari human partnership became a model for how old rivals could become allies. Meanwhile, Park Jiwoo, the human intelligence officer, had been working with Prince Toreth to track the consortium. They'd become close during the investigation, meeting late into the night to follow money trails and decode encrypted communications. They were getting close to something big. Deho could feel it. When Ithara's ship finally arrived back at Nexus Station, Deho was waiting at the docking bay. He wasn't sure if he should be there. She was Empress now. Maybe their friendship had been something that existed only in that brief window when she was still a princess, still vulnerable. But then she stepped off the ship, and her eyes found him immediately in the crowd. They blazed gold. With what he'd learned was joy. She walked straight to him, ignoring the formal welcoming committee Ambassador Yoon had arranged. Your Majesty, Deho said, bowing properly. Don't, Ithara said. She reached out and touched his arm. Don't ever bow to me, Deho. Not you. I'm supposed to show respect. You show me respect every day by being honest with me. That's worth more than any bow. She looked around at all the watching faces. Come, walk with me. We have much to discuss. They walked through the station's gardens, a place where artificial plants tried to mimic a dozen different worlds. Guards followed at a discreet distance. Ithara had changed out of her formal robes into something simpler, though she still wore the crown. A circlet of crystal that caught the light and threw rainbow patterns on her silver skin. How are you? Deho asked. Tired. Overwhelmed. But good. She smiled. My father's last words to me were about you. About me? He said that the humans were wiser than we gave them credit for. That sending someone like you to negotiate was a masterstroke. Someone who fought with wisdom instead of force, who saw people instead of just positions. Her voice softened. He told me not to let you go, that friends like you were rare. Your father sounds like a wise man. He was. I miss him terribly. She stopped walking and turned to face Deho. But because of you, I got to say goodbye. I got to hear him say he was proud of me. I got to tell him I loved him. That's a gift I can never repay. You don't need to repay it. That's not how friendship works. I know. You taught me that. She took a deep breath. Deho, I need to ask you something. It's important. Of course. When I said terrible things to you during our first meeting. When I swore I'd never kneel before you. Did that hurt you? He considered the question. A little. But I understood why you did it. You were protecting yourself. Showing strength to people who expected you to be weak. It was cruel. And I'm sorry. Ithara. No, let me finish. I treated you and your people as beneath me. I was arrogant and blind. You could have responded with anger. You could have tried to humiliate me in return. Instead, you showed me kindness. Patience. You taught me what real strength looks like. She reached up and touched the crown on her head. I'm Empress now. The first act of my reign was to create that partnership between our peoples. But I want to do more. Before Deho could respond, his comm chimed urgently. Jiwoo's voice came through, excited and scared at the same time. Deho! We found it. The proof we needed. But you need to come now. Toreth and I are in danger. Ithara's eyes shifted to red. Where? Sector 15. The old storage area. We were tracking consortium cargo, and the comm cut off. Sounds of weapons fire in the background. Deho and Ithara ran. Guards tried to keep up, but they were faster, driven by fear for their friends. They reached Sector 15 to find Jiwoo and Toreth pinned down behind shipping containers. 3 consortium mercenaries advanced on their position with military-grade weapons. Ithara didn't hesitate. She pulled a blade from somewhere in her robes and charged. Deho grabbed a metal pipe from the ground and followed. They moved like they had during the drone attack, perfectly synchronized. Ithara's warrior training and Deho's soldier instincts complemented each other. But the mercenaries were good. Professional. One of them got a shot off that hit Ithara in the shoulder. She stumbled, her skin going dark with pain. Deho stepped in front of her, using the pipe to deflect another blast. The heat seared his hands, but he didn't let go. Get the Empress out, one of the mercenaries shouted. The human's expendable. The mercenary's weapon swung toward Deho. Point-blank range. No way to dodge. Time seemed to slow. Deho could see the weapon charging. The mercenary's finger tightening on the trigger. He thought about his brother. About never getting to say goodbye. He thought about Ithara. About how he'd just found this friendship, and now it would end. Then Ithara was there. She pushed him aside with her good arm. The blast meant for Deho hit her instead, square in the chest. She fell. No! Deho caught her as she collapsed. Her skin was flickering, the light inside her dimming. The wound was bad. Critical. Station security arrived seconds later, overwhelming the mercenaries. Medics rushed in, but Deho barely noticed. He was holding Ithara, and she was dying in his arms. Stay with me, he said. Please, Ithara. Stay. Funny, she whispered. Her eyes were fading from gold to gray. I swore I'd never kneel before you. But here I am. On the ground. Humbled. You're not kneeling. You're hurt. The medics will. No time. Her breathing was shallow. Human medicine can't help. Velkari physiology is too different. By the time they get me to our doctors. She coughed, and glowing blood appeared at her lips. I'm sorry. I wanted more time. Toreth was there, crying openly. Take care of them, Toreth. Our people. Make them understand. Ithara's eyes found Deho's again. Thank you. For everything. For seeing me. For being my friend. For teaching me that some things matter more than pride. Don't talk like this, Deho said. You're going to be fine. But even as he said it, he could feel her getting lighter in his arms. Like she was fading away, Torith suddenly grabbed Deho's arm. There's a way. What? Velkari can share life force, transfer energy from one to another, but it requires. He swallowed. Total submission. The giver must kneel, must bow completely to the receiver's will, place themselves entirely under another's power. It's considered the greatest dishonor for royalty. I'll do it, Deho said immediately. Tell me how. No. Torith looked miserable. It only works between Velkari. Our biology is too different from yours. The only one who could save her is another Velkari. But she's the Empress. No one would dare perform the ritual. It would be, I'll do it, Sorith said. The old advisor had arrived with the medics. He knelt beside Ithara. My Empress. Will you accept this old fool's life? Will you let me save you? Ithara's eyes widened. Sorith, you'll be dishonored. You've served the Empire for 200 years. Your reputation means nothing compared to your life. Sorith smiled. Besides, I'm old. Let me do this one last thing for the royal family I've served. I can't ask this of you. You're not asking. I'm offering. Sorith looked at Torith. Help me. We'll both give her life. Twice the power. Better chance. But brother. Ithara tried to protest. I'm not as old as Sorith, Torith said, already moving into position. I'll survive. And you're my sister. I'd do anything for you. Deho watched as the two Velkari performed the ritual. They knelt, pressing their foreheads to Ithara's hands. They spoke words in their language, old and powerful. Their skin began to glow brighter and brighter, and that light flowed into Ithara. Her wounds started to close. Color returned to her eyes. The ritual took minutes that felt like hours. When it was done, Sorith collapsed. His skin was dim, almost gray. Torith was barely conscious, but alive. And Ithara sat up. The wound in her chest was gone. She looked at her hands, glowing with renewed life. Then she saw Sorith, saw how he'd given nearly everything to save her. Why? She whispered, cradling the old advisor's head. Why would you dishonor yourself from me? Because, Sorith said weakly, you taught me something. You, and that human friend of yours. That honor isn't about following rules. It's about doing what's right, and saving you was right. His eyes closed. Be a good empress. Make us proud. He died with a smile on his face. Ithara held him and wept. Her tears glowed, falling on his dim skin like little stars. The medics took Torith away to recover. Security was cleaning up the scene, taking the mercenaries into custody. Jiwoo was giving statements, explaining how they'd found evidence of the consortium's network. But Deho only saw Ithara, holding her dead advisor, rocking back and forth with grief. He knelt beside her. Not the Velkari ritual kneeling, just human comfort. He put his arms around her and let her cry. He gave everything, she said between sobs. He dishonored himself to save me. He honored himself, Deho corrected gently. He proved that love is stronger than tradition. That some people are worth any sacrifice, like you would have done. You would have taken that blast for me. Yes. Why? Because you matter. Because you're my friend. Because... He stopped, realizing what he was about to say. But Ithara pulled back and looked at him with those color-shifting eyes. Because? She prompted. Because I care about you, Deho said simply. More than I probably should. More than is diplomatically wise. You're an empress and I'm just a human diplomat, and this is complicated and probably impossible, but I care about you. Not as a political figure. As a person. As Ithara. Dream. She stared at him. Her eyes went through a dozen colors before settling on something that looked like dawn. Pink and gold mixed together. I swore I would never kneel before you. I know. I swore I would never show submission. Never give power to a human. Most especially, never to you, Kang Daeho. I remember. But Sorith just showed me that some oaths should be broken. That kneeling for the right person isn't weakness. She stood, pulling Daeho up with her. When this is over, when we've dealt with the consortium and finished the negotiations and put everything in order, when we have time. She touched his face, gently, her hot hand against his cheek. Ask me again, about what I would do for you, about what I would sacrifice, about whether I would kneel. Ithara, not now. There's too much to do. But someday. She smiled, and it was like watching a sunrise. Someday, I will answer you. And I think my answer will surprise us both. 3 months later, after the consortium had been dismantled and peace treaties signed, after the joint human Valkyrie colony had been established and trade routes opened, after hundreds of meetings and ceremonies and diplomatic events, Daeho stood once again in the station gardens. Ithara found him there. She wore simple clothes, no crown, no royal regalia. Just herself. You said to ask again, Daeho said, about what you would do for me. I did. Would you kneel? Yes. She said it without hesitation, but not in submission, not in defeat. I would kneel as an equal, choosing to honor another equal. I would kneel because that's what people do who care about each other. They lift each other up. They support each other. And sometimes, that means letting go of pride. She took his hands. You've changed me, Daeho. You've changed my empire. You've shown us that wisdom isn't about being perfect. It's about being willing to grow. And you've shown me, Daeho replied, that reaching out to someone, really seeing them, can change everything. So what happens now? Now? He smiled. Now we build something new. Together. Not human and Valkyrie. Not diplomat and empress. Just Daeho and Ithara. 2 people who found each other across the stars. She pulled him close. Their faces were inches apart. When I first saw you, I thought you were nothing. And now you're everything. She kissed him. It was soft and careful. The kiss of 2 people learning a new language together. When they pulled apart, her eyes were shining gold, the color of pure joy. I kneel for no one, Ithara said softly, resting her forehead against his. But for you, Daeho, for you, I would bend the sky itself. And in that moment, with the stars watching through the garden dome, a human and an empress proved that some bonds transcend species, politics, and pride. That friendship can become something more. That the bravest thing anyone can do is open their heart to someone who sees them truly. The alien princess had sworn she'd never kneel. But she'd learned something better. She'd learned that love doesn't require kneeling. It requires seeing, understanding, choosing each other, every day, despite the differences and distances and difficulties. And that was worth more than any empire. That was worth everything.